Right, JJ Perez, Inside Runner Sports, Greg Lucas, San Antonio Express News, coming to you from the Alamo Dome.
Yeah, you can't really recognize it. There's no concrete place.
There's no turf. I guess there's a, show here later or something.
Happening, yeah.
But we have just concluded interviews with new UTSA football head coach Jeff Traylor. Mm-hmm. Kind of high energy. That's my biggest takeaway.
No, the media is the big winners. We have a lot of good interviews in our future. He's a very charismatic guy, and it was like very weird from the start. He was like, I talked to the players for 17 minutes and 40 seconds or something. Like,
right.
What a weird specific. It just feels like we're going to get a lot of very random, interesting things. He said his wife was hotter than fish grease.
Fish grease, yes.
So these are all just really quotable things, and this guy seems like a cool guy to be able to work with for however long he's going to be here.
Tons of energy in his interviews, and I guess let's get down to some, tidbits of information he shared with us. I believe he said he has 5 assistant coaches either here or on the way here, 2 of them directly from high school.
Yeah, it sounds like some of them are on the road recruiting at
this
point, which is interesting because they only have a few days before. Saturday's the last
Saturday's
day?
the end of the period.
So they have to get to work on that so they can get some people in for early signing day next week, which will be good. If we had a little more time, I was going to ask, how much do you have to get done now versus how long can you sign some guys in the spring if you want. I mean, that's obviously still an option, but interesting that they're already hard at work, and he must have had, I imagine any coach in this situation has like a framework of, if I get a head coaching job, these are going to be the guys that I look to, and this is how I want this to set up and what I want my staff to look like. So he was ready to go, it seems like.
Yeah, there's a report out there that he's kind of selected his offensive coordinator. He didn't want to name him yet. Same thing with the defensive coordinator. And he did mention during his Q&A session, I think he said he wanted the 13 commits that they currently have, he's going to try and get them still on board in December and maybe regroup for February. Yeah. So I think that's kind of his plan.
I'm putting you on the spot here, I guess, but 13 is a number that I thought was high. We had 9 guys in the databases that I look at. So.
Maybe there's some soft guys he's hoping to get back.
Or do you think that there's a possibility that some of the guys he had recruited for Arkansas, maybe that some of them could be interested?
I think also some of them cross each other. There are some guys that were recruited by Arkansas who were committed to UTSA.
Sure, right.
So there's always that possibility as well. The other takeaway, I think Lisa Campos said she wasn't sure about the coach's salary pool. Yeah. You asked that question. Yeah. It kind of seems like it's kind of up in the air.
Yeah, I guess it's either still being negotiated or they just didn't want to tell us, one or the other, but we'll figure it out eventually. The document that we got was a memorandum of understanding.
Yes.
It was not his actual contract, so a lot of the finer points are not in there. So that's one of the things that I'm really interested in, because obviously he's making less than Frank Wilson made. His base salary is $600,000, and he's got $200,000 in incentives, which is less than Frank Wilson made even pre-extension.
Yes.
So certainly there would be more money to go to the assistant pool if they wanted to do it that way, or they're just going to cut back on spending on coaching salaries, which I think is probably more likely. I mean, relative to the other coaches in the other sports, the football coaches were paid higher relative to other schools. Like, obviously football coaches make higher than the other sports, but even just as a ratio to how other schools do it, the football coaches here were paid disproportionately high. So I wouldn't be surprised if those numbers were just getting pulled back a little bit.
And then you mentioned yesterday, I believe, the $800,000 guarantee would put him middle to bottom of the pack.
Yeah, so he would have been 7th this year.
Yeah.
But salaries escalate, so it depends who has new coaches. I mean, certainly the guy he was tied with for 7th at Western Kentucky, as long as they don't have a coaching change,
right.
I don't know about, then he would go up probably because they escalate every year, so he'd be 8th. But we'll see how it works out when next year's numbers come up. But yeah, not as high as Frank Wilson, who was 4th this year, if I remember correctly.
We also spoke with Dr. Taylor Amy, the president of UTSA. He said the board approved the memorandum of understanding, so that was good. And then something interesting, he said he sat in every interview.
Yeah, he was very involved in the search, it sounds like.
Connected at the hip with Lisa Campos. So
and also,
is that surprising?
I don't know. I think that their relationship has certainly always seemed like that's the way it was structured, where he's very involved in athletics. And he talked a couple times today about the front porch idea for football being a representation of the university. And I think that if you're going to view it that highly and you want to make that kind of commitment to it, then you have to be involved in something like this decision. And it sounded like he was involved pretty heavily in the decision to get rid of Frank Wilson as well. So his involvement in the football program is probably good, because that means you have an extra voice. And I say that because it seemed like not a ton of people were involved in the coaching search. And I asked Lisa about this a little bit, and she said like thousands of people were involved, but that's not what I meant.
Yeah,
it was more along the lines of, I think that within their staff and within the search firm, it seemed like just kind of not a lot of cooks in terms of trying to figure out who the next coach will be, which is probably why there was not a lot of information out there.
And Taylor Amy said they made it a point of emphasis to not have a lot of information get out during this coaching search.
So they did their job in that sense, and I think that for that reason, it's important that the president and the athletic director are both involved. At least you have kind of two voices to bounce stuff off each other.
What else did he say that was interesting? Not the race, we'll save that for later, but I think he said that he had high praise for Frank Wilson. I think, what was it, standing on the shoulders of giants.
There's a lot of, he talked a lot about in his statement up on the podium about how the program built under Frank Wilson, and I think that's valid. One thing that I've heard discussed, I forget who was the first to bring this up, but the names that are associated with this opening were a lot different than the names that were associated when Frank Wilson was hired. I think it's kind of gone up a little. So that's what you want to see, and that means that Frank Wilson raised the profile of the program, which I think is pretty widely accepted. I think that's a pretty common opinion. Even if you didn't like what he was doing and didn't believe in the results he was getting, which is totally fair, the program is probably in a better place than when he started. And I think that for that reason, that he deserves all the praise he gets, and because so many people liked him on a personal level.
Right.
That he was beloved by his players and by his coaches and by the people in the program, but they just kind of had to make the tough decision to get rid of him. It was interesting, he said just some of the metrics and the analytics they were looking at that told them that they could have taken the program to a higher level.
Like, now was the time.
If we could talk to him forever, I would have asked more about what he was looking at or what they were.
He had to go to a party
with
donors, so.
You know, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was interesting too. So it's good that he's involved. He seems like he kind of has taken the university in a good direction and has a good vision for what's to come here.
Do you feel like UTSA's fan base is divided over this change in leadership?
I haven't seen too many people knocking the hire aside from the obvious trolls. Like, I think there's people who just are going to hate on it either way, and you can say, well, he's got a similar profile to Frank Wilson, which Lisa was asked about, and basically she just said he fit the marks that we wanted as good as anybody did, so we went with him. But I think he's well liked in the same way that Frank Wilson was. People think he's a good guy, and he's got good connections here, and it seems to me that everybody kind of is willing to give him a chance and think he's qualified for the job now. If you wanted a more exciting hire, I think that's probably fair. Some people wanted some of these big names that were floated around in here and
probably more money.
And yes, but also just maybe not attainable. Who knows if people were interested in the job or what that process was like. So I think for what they're paying and what he potentially offers and what we saw today, it seems like it's positive.
Right, I tend to agree with that. We also spoke with Taylor Amy about the race facility, which we keep getting told it's coming.
We didn't learn too much
very soon, and we didn't learn too much.
We asked just so you guys know.
Early part of next year, 3 earlies, I believe.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's January. So that's what I'll say on this video. I'm hoping
that seems
it's January.
Fine. Yeah. I mean, it's like Traylor said. You know, it's coming, and we can tell people it's coming, and I don't care when they break ground as long as it's happening. So if that's what the coach thinks, then it's as useful to him as it needs to be, and we'll see when everything else is in order that they're able to get rolling on it.
And I can't get over his energy today.
Yeah,
and
it was outrageous.
It was I don't think we've seen many press conferences that had this much flair to it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I liked that he was like, I don't think he had notes. I mean, he had something on his phone,
and then he just went off script and put it in his pocket.
Clearly was not looking at it. Yeah, kind of did whatever he wanted to do, and I thought it worked out well. He got his point across, so you can instantly imagine he probably related to the players pretty well.
Right.
And I don't know, you know, it seemed like maybe there was some unrest there in terms of they liked Frank Wilson quite a bit and weren't happy.
Right.
Hopefully he's in the process of winning them over for their sake. And you can see why he would be a good recruiter, because he just brings that energy and is a guy that, you know, there's people out there who are watching who are like, I'm ready to suit up and go.
Yeah.
Like, he's got that fire.
He definitely had that fire.
The draw the line thing is already really over with the people. They love it.
I mean, they love it. He watched the Alamo in preparation for both versions of the Alamo. I
don't know much. I'm not a big. I have a friend who's a military history major.
Yeah, I know. I have a friend too.
I texted him about this morning, and he said it probably didn't even happen, but it's irrelevant. It was in a movie, and people like it.
He wants the Roadrunner fans to cross the line with him to make this thing work, which I think, considering where the program is and what they're trying to do with facilities and fundraising, which they seem close with, that's what they need. That's what this program needs.
The interesting thing that when I saw him post it and stuff, I was thinking from the player's perspective, like, you guys all need to cross the line with me and believe that we can do this. But it is he said today about much more than that. It's
Right.
about donors. It's about people buying tickets. It's about the administration, which he spoke very highly of. It's about everything. So I think it's an interesting model. I think it'll catch on.
We both got a chance to look at his contract terms yesterday. Some of those incentives are pretty basic. The one that jumped out, you mentioned it, and you asked about it today, were the tickets.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing to include in there because it seems like part of the reason you hire a guy like this is because you want him to spark interest
Right.
and engagement. So
Right.
let's have a metric to see how well he sparks interest and engagement. And there just wasn't enough time between the announcement and today for me to go back and pull the budget info I have and see
Right.
how attainable those benchmarks are. I really don't know.
Yeah.
I can find it. It just
Yeah.
would take me a few minutes that I didn't carve out for that. So we'll see. But it's an interesting concept either
Right.
way. I think that's the interesting part.
I think Taylor Amy said that if you add the incentives that they thought were, attainable, that his contract sum is pretty close to what Frank Wilson's is, which I'd like to go back and look.
I don't know. I mean, Frank Wilson had a lot of incentives too.
Right.
Now the one that Traylor has that Wilson didn't is for 6 wins.
Yeah.
Which is an attainable incentive. I think that was like 50,000 though.
Right.
You got to make up a couple 100,000 to get
Yeah,
to
to
where
get the-
Wilson was. And so we're talking about if you win the conference championship and you go to a New Year's Six game and stuff
Yeah,
like that,
yeah,
then you'll make more than Frank Wilson did. I think they had a $500,000 clause for winning the national
Right.
title.
It seems
So
a little low to me.
That
I don't
would
know.
do it too. So, you can spin it however you want, but Wilson had a lot of the same incentives except for that ticket one. That one I thought was interesting.
Well, that'll wrap it up here from the Alamo Dome. I didn't think I'd be back inside of here this quick since the season ended.
Yeah, we're
but
gonna go see if the press box is open.
We're
so we
gonna
don't
go
have to
see.
sit in
Yeah,
traffic.
we're gonna go see if the press box is open. We're gonna get some work done, and that'll wrap it up. Greg Lucas, San Antonio Express News, JJ Perez, Inside Runner Sports. Appreciate you guys watching.